I'll tell you when it pops up. I'll be introducing you. Hey folks, welcome to Kaisers Kastle. Tonight we have the continuation of the CERT talk. CERT 2.0, right? And I have Dan back on. There's a few things we missed. We didn't miss much, but we did miss a few things. So what we're going to do is we're going to cover them tonight. So go ahead and Dan.
All right, man. What? So tell me what? Okay, so other than oh my goodness, bindings. Let's talk about bindings.
Sure.
All right. Now, when I say bindings, I know that flips a light in some people's head. They think about what happens behind closed doors. They think about if you're a loadmaster, you're talking about binding down that skid or the cargo on that skid. For those of us that have unloaded 747s,
right?
Bindings generates an entire different conversation. But in the content of your CERT bag, the binding material that you're able to keep with you is pretty minimal.
Right.
So you have to kind of move outside of the box. They'll go ahead and give you a courtesy roll of duct tape. You might get about 3, maybe 4 yards out of it. My encouragement is get a couple of heavy-duty rolls of duct tape to bring with you. You're going to say, me and Dano, that's a lot of shit to carry.
Yeah.
When things start to happen, though, you never have enough. I don't care who it is. I can take you to different emergency responders, pieces of apparatus. I probably can conjure up anywhere from, I would probably say 4 to about a half a dozen to right around a dozen rolls of duct tape in some way, shape, or form. 550 cord, you never have enough of it. Sorry, it's just Dano. Probably start, I would say, for yourself, for in part as far as what you keep for you to be able to go ahead and any kind of shelter that you may have to erect for yourself in the event that there's a situation that you're in does not provide that for you. You probably want to keep a couple 50-foot lengths of 550 cord to be able to go ahead and take advantage of that. 550 cord is a non-binding, non-adhesive form of duct tape. You got to remember, you got 7 strands inside of that's very, very tough. It's designed to be tough, and it does hold, as the designation does, give you 550 pounds. Now,
for each strand of that, or not each strand, but for each full fibrous cord, you're correct.
All 7. When you open up a piece of 550, for those of us that have been out in the field before, when we open up a strand of 550, on the very end of it, if we go ahead and we take the molded end of that off, we're able to see that there's 7 different cords in there. Yep. That's combined. All 7 gives you a gross weight of 550 pounds that you're able to go ahead and test that with. So try to keep at least 2 of those. It doesn't hurt. Something else that I encourage that everyone in some way, shape, or form brings with you is tubing. No, you're not going to the slopes to get the tubing. Wrong tubing. You're not going to be out on the lake off the back of a boat. Wrong tubing still. Tubing is a nylon tubing.
Yep.
And it comes on a very, very long cord. And different color of tubing has a very different weight rating to it.
Yep.
You want to go ahead and you want to look it up, you most definitely can. Tubing is good to have. I would probably say 15, 20-foot piece of tubing like that. There's a lot of different ways that you can go ahead and secure that. You can use it, if you have it configured correctly, you can use it as a harness for yourself. If for some reason or another you find yourself in a situation where you have to be an anchor for somebody, or you're going over the edge of something and they don't have anything else for you to go ahead and work with, tubing, provided that it's the right size, it's a go-to kind of a thing to have. We used to use it when we towed race cars.
Yep.
We would go ahead and pick it up off the back of the hook, off the back of the arm. Tubing is always good to have. It's your discretion. Do not, and I'm really sincere about this, do not tie a knot in the end of it. Burn it off with cigarette. Burn it off with a cigarette lighter. Cigarette lighters are always good to have with you. I don't care if you don't smoke or not.
Right.
You need instant fire sometimes. When you need instant fire, you don't need someone there with a ferro rod trying to go ahead and start a fire. That's not what you're looking for when you're out there in the field working. Keep about 15, 20 foot of that rolled up. I do keep it in my go-to bag downstairs that goes out to the car with me every day. And you can go ahead and use a lot of different ways that really helps you out. But back to the original cordage idea. You have smaller cordage. Remember, we mentioned county comm for tethering for your tools. Whether it would be that you're good enough with the cordage to be able to understand how to go ahead and make it so you're able to go ahead and make a purchase point on there, make it so if it's dropped, you don't lose it. You don't lose it in a pile of stuff. You don't lose it in the water. You don't lose it in a river or swamp, wherever it is the hell that you're at. When you drop that stuff and it disappears out of sight, no one's going to be fishing for it.
That's
you're
right.
you're only going to get a few seconds to fish for it. Cord it, have it tight to you. That includes any kind of a knife that you may have, whether it be a folder or a fixed blade. Always make sure that you go ahead and you have all you have to do is use the little tethering cord. Don't use the 550 for it unless it really calls for it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, you're exactly right. And I would tell people, learn your knots, especially one that is super handy besides the bowline. Bowline's the go-to knot besides the square knot. But get yourself some 3/8 to a 1/2 inch blue water rope. That's a type of rappelling rope, but it's also very good just for doing things. And then learn to do even a bucket or pulling a pole. There's a way it's called to tie a pole. That's that knot. And it's a bunch of concentric knots. It's usually 3 to 4 to 5 knots depending on the length of the pole and the distance you spread it on. And it's a very simple knot. Same with the bucket knot. Once you learn how to do it, then you can pull stuff up out of a hole. Let's say you're digging somebody out. You can pull that bucket out, dump it, drop it back down with the cord so you're not going to bounce somebody on their head. We talked about the bump helmets earlier in the last program. But, yeah, Dan's telling you the truth on that. So, sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead, brother.
You did interrupt me. It's all good. As a matter of fact, county comm is the little unknown sight to a lot of people, like mil-spec monkey.
Yep.
Now, I know the people that are listening to this, we're of a different lifestyle. I know that we're of a different group, and these are all common. They're common names that we hear. It's a commonality that we all deal with, whether it's even if it's a peanut lighter.
Yeah.
We know we can find these things in. One thing I want to throw out here, County Comm has that CERT tool with the
axe-looking tool that we were talking about in the first program, correct?
No, this is different now. This is like a bar. Remember how when we used to go ahead and pop ammo crates?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Okay, so this is they technically call this an EOD breacher bar.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, and they come in titanium also if you buy them from the Ruskies.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you get that, it has two sides of it. You can sharpen. You can use it as a cutting hacking tool. But on this one that the County Comm has, it has the gas shutoff loop with it. So these, as long as you are familiar, or even if you want to go online and take a look, I don't know if Juberg was stupid enough to take it down yet, but they show you how to go ahead and wrap your 550 cord or some of the smaller cord around that to make that a handle so it doesn't get away from you. It's more comfortable to use. These are the things to have. I don't know that these are sparking or non-sparking. Honestly, really don't know. I think it's probably going to be a little bit of a sparking thing. But these are good things to have. Let's see here. What does it tell me?
If it's titanium, it's going to be non-sparking.
Right.
If it's magnesium, it'll be non-sparking. What you'll find, like when he's talking about this, you can also find something. It's an ironworker's tool. The only reason I know about it is I was a union ironworker. Besides the all the different tools we use to go through bolt holes, one of the most easy tools we had, and all you got to do, Klein makes it. It's called a sleever bar. It is still, it is complete still, so it's very sparking. But it's similar to what he's talking about. Other than that, I would say a Halligan tool will do basically the same thing, except it will not shut off gas or water. It will breach a door, breach an area. Look for breaching tools if you're that interested in CERT, and they even make a bag. Special forces and SWAT teams use it all the time with a non-sparking beater, what we used to call, but it's basically a sledgehammer. And then you have your Halligan tool, and you also have a little tool that you can pry up, and you can also cut things with. Anyway, sorry about that. I interrupted.
No, that's okay. So the Halligan tool, while it can be really helpful, I probably wouldn't bring it unless I really knew that I needed it, because those things will they will get heavy.
Yeah.
Sometimes you carry it around for 5 or 10 minutes, but if you're going out to do a job, you're out working an area, you may want to go ahead and reconsider that a little bit, because it'll go ahead and it's going to get it's going to get heavy quick. The one thing I do want to let you know, you hear us talk about CountyComm. This breach bar that CountyComm makes, it's probably maybe 2 inches longer than a dollar bill.
All right.
So it isn't real big. I don't want anyone to think, oh, I'm going to get this big old tool in the mail or anything like that. No, this is designed. This is a force multiplier.
Yeah.
It is designed to give you leverage to be able to go ahead, peek, establish inspection holes if that's what you need to do with it. But it's a very, very good thing to have. The typical Wonder Bar. Those of us that have done any kind of real construction work, we know what a Wonder Bar is. A Wonder Bar is another great, awesome little tool that with a little bit of pressure or a little bit of pounding from another object will go ahead, drive that piece in there a little bit so you can go ahead and pry out on it and be able to take a look and see what's going on with it.
Yep.
And so, that is another great one. These things will not take up a lot of room. They will not present a lot of weight in your pack.
Yep.
Your pack's going to be limited. Now, my pack is tore. I'm waiting for him to get me a new one. I kind of alluded to the point that I'm going to use my own pack, so I don't know if they're necessarily going to be happy one time when they see me show up. But, however, I believe in Kaiser and I believe in quality tools to do the job. You get what you pay for.
Yep.
If you bring a rinky-dink hammer with the wrong claw end on it, and you're using a finishing hammer where you need basically a claw for a framing hammer, it's never going to work, and you're wasting everyone's time. Sometimes time is of the essence when you're dealing with certain situations when it comes to this. But I was thinking about that last week, and and the other thing that I thought about was zip ties.
Yep.
Zip ties come in many different forms, shapes, sizes,
and colors, and we'll talk about that later. I want to make sure we cover that.
Okay, cool. So, did we miss anything with cordage?
The only thing I think on cordage and on tools that I think we might want to cover is duct tape. We forgot that the last time. And duct tape, it's not necessarily cordage. It's also called 100-mile-an-hour tape.
Right.
Get good quality 100-mile-an-hour tape. I've got spools of it that are so deep, so big. They do add weight. See, here's the thing. It's always the weight versus utility. And,
right.
But a good military duct tape, those that have been in the military know it comes in a certain amount of length, and then you just sawzall it, or you cut it through a drop saw. And then you have usually 2 to 3 inches sometimes 1 inch. I've got a few rolls of 1 inch where we cut it smaller. You can always cut it smaller than what you get it at, and that stuff is super sticky, super good. And also, if you need to put stuff up somewhere, let's say you're working in an area, they make industrial strength. What do you call that stuff where it's got the male and female sticky on each side? You're holding a Velcro.
Yeah, Velcro.
Yeah, they make that, and you can buy that stuff at Walmart and the industrial strength stuff. But that's all cover on cordage and that kind of stuff. Tape.
Okay. Cool. Velcro is always good to have for rolls of stuff that you have in your bag. Velcro type bindings that Kaiser was just talking about. This is something that you necessarily give away. You have to be able to go ahead and make decisions as far as what's yours and what you can afford to let someone else have.
Yep.
Velcro things, no, that's yours. Yep. Keep it. Make it your own. It's much like your knife, whether it's a folding knife, fixed blade knife. Yep. Knives is another subject that we can get into another night.
Yep.
But standard, 4 to 5 inch knife typically is going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Scissors. Keep a pair of medical scissors with you.
Always.
It sounds always, because they'll cut through a penny.
Yep.
And as long as it says that it's autoclavable, you do have the right type and style. If it doesn't say autoclavable on it, you don't want that. You don't want those medical shears, but those medical shears will cut through a lot. Cordage, we also indicated that you want to go ahead if you can find an extension cord, 25 foot of extension cord. Extension cord will not break.
No, it won't. The only thing it will do over time, if let's say you have a long distance to travel, it does lose by ohms. It loses the amount of power that will actually go out to, let's say you have something, not just a welder, but let's say you have a generator, but you have an electrical source, and it's an electrical generator that bounces the power up. You will lose some of that effect. But yeah,
you'll lose
over distance. It's more than 25 yards, though.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of guys on the USAR teams will go ahead and use it in place of rope, in place of line, because the copper will not break.
That's right. You can. It's double duty. No, he's exactly correct. You can use it for both things, or strapping something down, or let's say you're doing a chair carry, you're doing other carries. You're making a shoot, why am I mind dumping? It's a litter to carry somebody out. You can use that wrapped around a couple of bars or wood pieces and get somebody out of somewhere. So you're exactly correct. That's good stuff. Yeah.
All right, we're doing good. Yeah. Okay, so cordage covered, we got duct tape covered, we got rope covered.
Yep.
Have a climbing store near you. Climbing stores are always good to go ahead and give you an idea what your weight limit are, stretch limit are. I can tell you some of the search and rescue folks will tell you if they use a certain type, style, strength of piece of rope, if they use it for a certain activity, it's a one and done.
Yep.
You don't bring it back in. If you bring it back in, you are endangering someone.
Yep.
Definitely endangering someone.
Or if somebody steps on it, it could be out in the field. Somebody steps on it. These are things you have to be aware of. This is actually a good transition, because you do have to be aware that if somebody steps on it, if some liquids get on it, that all can degrade. It's very situational, but it can degrade the effectiveness of it. And when he was talking about the nylon hoop cordage, what he's talking about, you'll find at a climbing store. A lot of people, if you get a Swiss seat that's produced by one of a reputable climbing companies, they're usually going to be made. It's flat, but it's actually a hoop. And that nylon stuff, it's great. But if you take it off your partner steps on it, you've just degraded the tension, or how do I say this? The drop to bounce ratio on it. And
the integrity.
The integrity of it.
Yeah, the structural integrity has been compromised.
Yes.
You can't let someone else step on it. You can't let something else roll on it, because what it'll do is when it dirty. If something rolls on it, what it does, it flattens the filaments in it, and it degrades the continuity. Not the continuity. Now you got me doing it. It degrades the integrity overall of that piece of rope. So, for those of us that may have spent time, in the Navy, we're familiar with this. We know that it's a totally different situation, but it isn't anything that, if you're in a spot, you just can't run down around the corner and get another one. You might or might not be able to go ahead and make do with it, but definitely if you do go to use it with due caution. I didn't say that if it's damaged, use it no matter what, but I am going to tell you that if you do go ahead and decide that you're going to use it after that, due caution, due diligence on your part to be able to go ahead and watch that while you're using it.
When you're rescuing somebody, it is their life in your hands, and if something bad happens, it will be your responsibility. That's basically the gist of that.
Err to the side of caution.
Always.
Caution. If you don't think it's sat, don't do it. Don't do it. If you think it's going to be unsat, do not mess with it, because it makes it while you may be covered under the state, as long as you're sworn in, like I am with Ohio EMA.
Yep.
You have a certain degree of protection there, but don't roll the dice in that fashion, because that affects many people. It generates a lot of paperwork. It ends up generating a lot of additional.
It can generate ill will.
Oh, definitely.
And that's not what we want.
Oh, no, never. Never, 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 never. All right, so we covered cordage. We covered duct tape. Zip ties we're going to touch in a minute.
Yep.
Let's see. Going through this mental checklist.
Before we do zip ties,
okay,
I'm going to cover marking tools.
Marking tools.
What I mean by that, when we get into zip ties, it's going to be fun, because I'll also bring up something that a lot of people don't think about, and those are clothespins. They have multicolored ones you can buy at any dollar store.
Right.
But we're not getting into that yet. And it kind of coincides with marking tools. But we're going to explore that here in a few minutes.
Okay.
If you go into a building and it's been searched and you found nobody there, only the people that are involved in that search, and this is going to come back to the zip ties and always remember, if you're doing this on the real and you know what you're doing, only the people that know what they're doing know what the colors mean.
Right.
And that's for a reason, because you don't want to panic the populace. You also don't want to make somebody instantly think that their person is lost, even though they might be. They might be unsalvageable.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing with a building. It's not like you're making a big X, but now when you're doing marking tools, people will say, well, get some spray paint, which is fine, but you can also find different color. It's a paint stick that comes in a big tube, has a little marking paint end, and you just decide before you go out there there is a different way that it's an international way on how to mark a building. If you find something or you don't, or if you find something but it's not viable to pull it out, but that way other searchers do not reduplicate effort, because that is a problem, because you're limited. In a major disaster, you're going to be limited on personnel. Trust me. Some of the people that might be on your CERT team will not be able to hit their area because they're at work and they're stuck somewhere else dealing with their thing. So let's get into that on how to mark.
Oh, let me pull it up. Oh my goodness. I was almost prepared.
You have been prepared. You're always prepared. The only thing, last time, we always have so much fun because we discuss all the eventualities that can come. Dan is awesome about this. Me and him will go autistic on this, but you folks don't want autism. What you want is the actual thought process behind and how to deal with this stuff. And that's what we try to deliver. And the last time we saw failures because we didn't spend time on certain things, and it was my fault, I'm going to be honest. I said, let's not get autistic over this. But then some of the things we should have, we didn't. So I take all the blame.
Don't worry about it. Okay, so here we go. Time to talk about marking of the buildings. Now, this is something that was covered in a CERT class that I was in, and it was what generated a certain amount of bad publicity when Katrina hit.
Yes.
This is after the water came down. They went in, they found people and other things up in the rafters that had expired during the time. So go ahead, draw an X, get a piece of paper, draw an X, very top of it. You are going in military time. You're going to enter, you're going to go ahead and post the date at the top part of that X.
True.
So it's going to be the date, month, and the last two digits of the year. So today it would be what, 250318. That's what you would go ahead and put on there, or you can go ahead and abbreviate the month.
Yeah.
Below that, you're going in military time. I encourage you to go ahead and put the time on there. So Kaiser and I were out in the field today. We would go ahead and we'd have 22 or 23, whatever, 19, whatever the time is. Just go ahead and mark it. Just for argument's sake tonight, we're going to say 1920, which makes it 20 after 7. And then on the left-hand side of the X, you're going to have your task force identifier. This is going to be the identifier that's assigned to you by command when you're on your way out to go do your job.
You don't arbitrarily assign it to yourself.
No, this is not Surf's Up, dude, or anything like that.
Right.
Because command has to be able, command and anyone else that has access to the information and the logs to know what groups are working where is going to say, Surf's Up, dude, who is working this stuff? So that isn't going to get it. That's not going to cut it, and you're going to get a lot of pushback on it. Bottom part of the exit, well, we're going to talk about the bottom part, but right across on the right-hand side of it, you're going to go ahead and you're going to mark any personal hazards in there. So hazards like biohazard.
Chemical,
if you have
whatever.
Chemical. Yep. Chemical, decomposing human beings.
That would fall in bio.
Yep. So, I mean, whatever the hazard is, if for some reason or another there is electrical in any building that you search, get out.
Yep.
Don't play with it. Don't jack with it. Don't touch it. Don't be cute. Think you're going to light a cigarette off of it or anything like that. It's a great way to go home dead.
And gas.
Situation worse. And gas, natural gas. That's why we encourage non-sparking tools. That's why we encourage that you go ahead and always keep your head on a swivel when you're working in these situations. I don't like bump caps. I'd rather have a helmet versus a bump cap. The bump cap is designed to keep you from getting your head laid open, so you have to go get stitches. If you go out and you work one of these zones, you have no idea how long it's going to take you to get stitched up if they let you come back out to work.
Yeah.
So now your team's down a member. That causes problems for command doing their job. We're going to go to the bottom part of the now we're going to go to the bottom part of the X.
Yep.
This is where it caused a lot of controversy in Katrina. My suggestion that was supposed to have been forwarded on to Fairfax, Virginia, was that they utilized a system of live, transported, and expired.
Right.
The media isn't always privy to everything that we talk about. If the media hears us, they can bite my you-know-what, because the media is just, they blow everything totally out of proportion, and they have zero idea what's going on.
Right.
Blood and guts makes money for them, and that's the only thing that matters. But keep this in mind. Discuss this with command before you go out. Probably the best place to do this. Dano's suggestion is this: the number of live people, the number of injured people, and the number of expired people. And I would probably put a fourth one of how many people was transported from the situation, if anyone was transported from it at all. This is something that I'm still waiting to hear back for over the last 2 years.
Well,
change doesn't happen fast.
Well, your idea is perfect. I mean, like, number of expired, let's say it's 2 E. Mm-hmm. Transport 3 E. And then people in the neighborhood will know how many people live in the building, and that's going to come from the intel, i.e. the who, what, when, where, why, and how. The how is always, anyways, I don't want to get into that. I've done a whole thing on that.
Right.
But this is basic intelligence, basic policing, and fire work is the who, what, when, where, why, and how. That's it.
Right. So most definitely go ahead and get that information and put it up there. Whatever command it is tells you to do it. My recommendation for Fairfax was that we went to a 4-digit system, alive, transport it. I even now don't even remember what I just said. What the hell's going on with me? But still, there has to be a different way to be able to go ahead and to address this, because it causes huge anxiety, and a lot of people are going to stop you and ask you for a lot of information on that. And so always refer community to the your network community, your media, to your PIO, public information officer, whoever at the command post. Do not let them anywhere near anything that's operational. They're right. Idiots. They're going to get hurt or killed, and then one of your team members could be in a like situation trying to get them out. I myself, and I hate to say this, if they were to be expired and be in there, we'd come back and get them later on. I have to go in more for the common good than what I have to do for thrill seekers that wouldn't listen to anybody to begin with.
Exactly. I mean, there were many people that it's that old adage back in the day. People don't want to hear it, but it's true. You know, it's the old God thing, where God sent you a police cruiser when the water started to rise, or a 5-ton, and then when all of a sudden it started getting deep, He sent you a boat when you were on the second floor, and you still didn't want to leave. And then when you were on the roof, He sent you a helicopter, and then when you drowned, He said, I sent you 3 separate things. Mm-hmm. You know, I tried to help you. And that's really the reality of it. And nothing portrays that better than what happened in New Orleans. For real.
You can only blame Ray Nagin for so much, but when people don't leave, when they're told to go, you know, guys, that's definitely on you. Okay, so what's next?
Well, now we'll talk about marking the bodies. Also, what I mean by that is with the different kinds of colors of
tape.
What's that?
Tape colors.
Yeah, tape, but also you can also use the why am I mind dumping it? We were just talking about the clothespins and the zip ties.
Right.
That can also go there.
Okay.
Yeah. And those colors will be, they're not always going to be consistent because you don't want anybody to know what those colors mean, because that can start a panic with families and stuff. So it's always going to change, but there's a certain amount of, there's only so many colors in the rainbows, folk. And that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So while I'm looking at this, you know, there's a lot of this information that you can always go ahead and take a look at. If you're interested in doing this, you can always go ahead and get a hold of your local emergency management team. If you have an EMA, the EMA there, sometimes they'll go ahead and let you know who's doing it. In case someone else does it, you can always go ahead and do that. Real quick before we start talking about markings and stuff, splinting. Splinting is really important. Splinting and is going to be something that's extremely crucial. You can use definitely soft materials, rigid materials, whatever you do when you go to secure that individual's appendage onto it. Most definitely be careful with the pressure that you use on that. They are going to be in a lot of pain. Chances of you being a paramedic in any way, shape, or form of being able to go ahead and to provide them any kind of drugs or anything to mitigate that,
zero.
Zilch to none.
Go
and
on.
That's,
run with this. I'm going to listen.
All right. Well, DNO is actually looking up stuff because I missed I can't find my notes on my markings. One of the things that I am going to go ahead and talk about as far as markings go is what you can use, especially when you get ready to do the outside of when you go to do the outside of buildings and things like that. Always keep a multitude of Sharpies with you. Sharpies in different colors can be very, very helpful, especially if command will give me just 1 second, guys. I'm looking something up. But having a Sharpie is it's a very efficient way of taking care of things. It covers a multitude of different things that you can go ahead and use with that. You can also go ahead sometimes use carpenter's crayon, depending on the situation. Say like you're writing on a stucco building, I would probably pull a yellow crayon out because the yellow is easy to read. Don't put black on black. Think about what it is that you're putting that on. If it's a black building, if you got a yellow crayon, go for it. If you have a black crayon, white building, go for it. Some folks will go ahead and they'll use spray paint, seems to be, but spray paint's only going to last for so long, so that's for sure. So we're going to talk about triage tags here real quick. And it's a green, and it's going to be green, yellow, red, black. All right. So green's going to be minor. It's going to be cuts, so it's going to be anything that really you can patch someone else up and get them out. Delayed's going to be something that is you have time to go ahead and get a treatment for it. So broken bones like that, as long as there's bleeding is under control and everything like that, you can always go ahead, splint it, make your patient as comfortable as possible. Immediate, like shock of those who are in shock, or those who have had or did have or in progress of having a medical event such as a stroke, a heart attack, something like that. Even after that's over, that person needs to get in for advanced care. Of course, we have the black tag on that. That means they're gone. They're over the rainbow with Dorothy and Toto.
Exactly.
So you can go ahead and you can do these things. You can go ahead. I encourage, if you can get them to, just go ahead and gather information. Just like you're talking to a friend that you've been out drinking a little bit too long with, go ahead and find out what their coherents are. Find out if they know what day it is. It's the ×3 thing that we want to know. We want to know, who is the president? what time of the, what day of the week is it?
Right.
You'll ask another current event. Typically, you're going to find out where they're at as far as 1 to 3. If you get a 1, that's someone that you want to get out of the area, because what's going to happen is they're going to eventually get agitated and they're going to want to walk away from everything. And then when you start getting people walking around like zombies in the middle of a situation like that we've described here, it's going to make things extremely dangerous for all involved, because you don't want your people, again, to be hurt. Your people are the most valuable assets that you have. You have to be responsible and accountable for them. Do things that maximizes their efficiency of doing the job, but also maximizes them going home in the same condition that they showed up.
Yep.
Preferably walking, preferably with no problems whatsoever. So as far as things to write on, you have the rainproof paper.
Yeah, right in the rain. Right in the rain.
Yes, thank you, brother. So you've always got that. If you ever go somewhere, I keep one in my briefcase. Someone looked at me the other day and said, "Is that a tack bag?" Kind of looked at him and I was like, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Your briefcase." I looked at him, I told him that I could put a multitude of things in there and make that anything that you want. One of the things that I keep in there is there's a certain brand of yogurt that we buy, and every time we finish one of those, I keep 1 or 2 with me. The reason being is if you're in a situation, you need to have an idea of what's going on. You need to know who comes in when, who comes in now. You're thinking, "Oh, well, Dano, that's no one's business." When you get first responders that come into an area and they don't know what's happened, if you have a documentation and a timeline of what happened with who, what, where, why, when, how, that helps them understand and have relay information back to command that gives them a better timeline of events and who was affected by what. So these things, sometimes if you roll up to an incident, first thing you want to do, you want to go ahead and draw a rudimentary sketch of what you believe that building looks like from the outside.
Yep.
Do what we call a 360. Walk around, look. If you see anything remarkable, broken windows is not remarkable. If you have fire coming from a window, if you have water coming from a window, if you have a utility that is coming from a window, if you experience down wires and you don't know for sure what they are, do not touch them. Your loved ones.
I'm sorry. Go on.
And?
I was going to say, it's basic military thing, and also it's basic sailor thing, and it's basic anything if you're flying too. You have your black side, your white side, your green and red side. And if you don't know what that is, just look up a nautical thing or a flying thing, and you'll see which side is which. And
right.
That's an easy way to describe it, but it's basically front, back, right, left. And
so
as you're looking from it, from the point of view from the front.
Right. You want to go. You want to go counterclockwise.
Right.
So what you see immediately in front of you is going to be your A side. To the left of you is going to be your B side. The back side is going to be the C side, and the right side that you look at is going to be the D side.
There you go.
You can also, so you can go ahead and you can get a really great idea of what vehicles are parked where. This sounds really bad, but guys, it's all part of the, site emergency management. It's all part of that command structure of knowing what you're looking at, because you never know. You may get a professional fire, EMS, police rescue unit come in there, or a USAR unit roll in there. They're going to look at that. They're going to take that from you. That's gold to them. That's important. That tells them everything that they need to know, and that allows for their after-action documentation for them to be able to go ahead and have an accurate timeline of the things that you saw happen, right, and the overall condition of the building. Now, we're not going to talk about damage assessment tonight.
No, we're not.
But what I can tell you is this: is if you see a building that has floors, and you watch the movie Twister and you're like, man, that's crazy that people do that. sometimes that's what you have to do. You have to try to work and be as careful as what you possibly can.
Yeah.
If you see a building that has a roof that's in on it, be very, very, very careful. That is an extremely dangerous situation, and that means that the USAR groups or whoever it is that locally goes ahead works with that technical rescue with the structural collapse. They have to go in and shore that up and make progress as they go into the house to get to whatever it is that they find the most immediate pressing emergency in that situation. They'll come get you as best as what they possibly can if you're ever a victim, but you as a CERT group, it's not your job. Light rescue, the word light rescue is very, very light. If you can reach them within 10 to 15 feet or even 20 feet of the door, if you're able to manage that situation without anything else coming down on top of you, that's going to be a light rescue.
That's what we call working the void. Every building that collapses, including people were rescued, believe this or not, a lot of people do not understand. Even on 9/11, from the trade towers, there were people who survived that because they were in voids. That's why in California, for earthquakes, they will tell you, get between, door frames, closets, all these different things. It's the same thing. You will get voids, and they may be triangular voids. But as a CERT person, you're not going to go real deep into it. But if you hear somebody moving, that becomes an emergency. And with the tagging of stuff, like you were covering earlier, one thing that I find is very refreshing because it really reduces weight is the different colors of two things. First, pins, clothespins. Second thing is the different colors of 550 cord. So then all of a sudden you're going through a button loop on somebody. That person's not going to freak out if you're putting it on them. They're not going to wonder what that color is. You're just saying, I'm going to help you, this, that, and the other. If they're lucent, if they have some lucidity. If they don't, then, you know what color you're throwing on them.
Right.
But honestly, you're not creating something that's going to cause a major issue for that human being going through it. And of course, you'll give the humanity to that person to make sure they know you're going to do everything you can. But you don't have time to just deal with that person. You have to keep moving because it's time sensitive.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The one thing then, and something else that we're going to briefly touch, some folks that you're going to run into may have a religious background that,
Right.
They don't want you to do certain things with this, that, or the other. Your best bet is to go ahead, work with them as best as what you possibly can. If someone has to restrain them, keep them back out of your area. Task someone with doing that so you can go ahead and get that person out, because what's happening in that situation is they're preventing you from helping that person that's near and dear to them.
Yes.
It's called a little bit of tough love. Sometimes you have to be able to go ahead and do that. And that's why, and while you don't ever want to have to restrain anyone, it does not hurt that you have someone else that is able to go ahead and step in and assist you with that. Typically, another family member is going to be there. They're going to be upset, but they are going to recognize the gravity of the situation from a less emotional standpoint. They're going to see that if they really want to go ahead and see that, if they are going to get a very good understanding that if they ever want to really see that person again, they're going to have to comply and they're going to have to do what you ask them to do.
Well, that's why you keep the color secret, honestly. Because if you don't keep that color secret, let's say you decide black is the people you're leaving, or the people you're taking, and white are the people you're gonna leave.
Right.
You go totally opposite,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why you do that. It can only be done at a local unit. But it has to be documented as to why you changed it.
Right.
Because if it gets out to the community everywhere, then the next thing you know, everybody knows what you're doing, and somebody says, my husband's marked red, he's going to be dead. And then all of a sudden, or wife, whatever, and then you have a whole different dynamic, and that puts people in danger that are trying to rescue people. I mean, that's the reality of it. And that's the thing on the trainer thing. They always stipulated, do not let the public know what you're doing. You have to do it, and it hurts, you know, if you've ever had to do it. Even out in combat, you know, we did the same thing. And when I did the white, black, red, green thing, if you're dealing with the guard or, you know, military troops, they're going to understand it. And you were very correct to put that out on this. I love the way that you think as a fireman. I love the way you think, because you're thinking, dealing with first responders, that LEOs are going to think like I think normally. But firemen may not, because they get indoctrinated a different way. And those two things, notice they're very different, but they're very much the same. And so you have to, that's why I think it's so good that firemen have complete command and control once the fire chief comes in to a disaster. And I mean that.
Well, the one thing is this, is that yes, chief does have, you know, the fire department does overall have control of the situation until state EMA or the county EMA rolls in, and then the fire chief will go ahead and end up sharing it in the end.
Yes.
That's why when you see a lot of drills, you know, you'll see police officers out there doing things that you typically wouldn't see a police officer do, because they have to get a better understanding of how it is that the fire side of things function. Doesn't necessarily take a whole lot of work, and I know we're going to end up getting some LEOs out here jumping up and down. Really?
No, you won't, because they know it's the truth. Look, if there's a minor incident, or even a major incident that's minor, in our state, who runs? Let's give what happened in Texas, down there in oh, why am I mind dumping it? I keep wanting to say Arizona. It's not it. Oh shoot. Anyways, it starts with an A. It's their capital. I can't believe.
Austin. Yeah.
All EOD normally, except for certain elements, are usually fire, because they have to deal with their residual. And the thing about Austin is the fire and the fire marshal, they were the lead agency, you know, and then the feds always will come in and say, well, we did this and that and the other, but they gave their assets to that fire marshal, to that agency. So I mean, it's a big mismatch, but until you see how the sausage is made, you don't really understand it. But the thing is EOD in every state I've ever known of, it's always handled, unless it's a major thing, something that we're not talk of, it's always handled by the fire marshal and the fire department.
Right. Now, so just a little bit of an idea of what it is we're doing here. We've spoken a little bit about cordage tonight, bindings, duct tape, a little bit of zip ties. zip ties depending on it. If for some reason or another the police department shows up and they're a little bit short, sometimes they may ask you for some of your heavier zip ties if they have to restrain someone. If you're out in the middle of a big disaster and someone acts out, most typically as a rule of thumb, they're not going to get real far because it's a huge mess. And if they run into someone else and they do get away from you, well, then that presents them with a whole new set of different circumstances that they're going to have to account for on a different level. So most generally as a rule of thumb, I really don't think it's going to be that big of a deal.
Right.
So keep a lot of Sharpies with you. Keep a lot of ballpoint pens with you. Keep things that you can write on. Write in the rain. I know you're saying, God, Deanna, that stuff is expensive. When you're out working a scene like that, definitely you want that information down that you can get it. If it starts to rain, you have to go ahead and transfer information. Someone shows up, you have to give information to them. A lot of times they're going to show up. They are going to go ahead and have their own way of taking that information. Now with the advent of cell phones, as long as the batteries aren't expired, you can give them a verbal account of it. They'll be able to go ahead and take it. They'll feed that information into a sound file. And then there's our other tools that can go ahead and transcribe it out, giving that person a break from having to go ahead and work it out by hand. So,
yeah, but nothing beats your situation, what you saw, what you're doing, and then you have your initials or your signature under it. It covers you as the CERT responder.
Right.
That always, and look, all technology will fail when you need it the most. I've seen it happen numerous times, and
right.
So have you, Dan.
Oh, yeah. Definitely have seen it happen. If you ever see a power go out in a strip of recruiting offices, this is what you're going to see.
Yeah.
You're gonna see the guys from the Coast Guard. They're gonna pack up. They're gonna go home. They have no power.
Yep.
The guys from the Army, they're gonna pack up. They're gonna go home. Their computers will not work. The guys from the Air Force, they're gonna pack up. They're gonna go home. It does not work. The Navy, they have no power. They're done. They will pack it up and they will go home. God bless Chesty Puller and the Marine Corps, because those young men will be in there with flashlights. They'll have their paperwork out. They'll have their number 2 pencil sharp, and they will be buzzing away at a max efficiency of recruiting people. Trust and believe that number 2 pencil means a whole hell of a lot, and they will go ahead and roll on a completely different level. Even if they have to go ahead and update files later, trust and believe. I've seen gunnies go ahead and run those deals before when the power goes out, and they were like, we got to go to recruit people. We got to go and get a hold of people and keep working. So those number 2 pencils, carpenter pencils, another great thing to have.
Yep.
It's a heavier gauge lead. It isn't going to break. It's a good thing to have. That's a great thing to be able to go ahead, write instructions, things like that. If you're running a cut table, for some reason or another, you're running a cut table, a carpenter's pencil is of great value to you. If you're able to have a rudimentary straight edge in there that allows you to go ahead and create a pattern to be able to go ahead and cut, or you're able to go ahead and have a tape measure that allows you to cut a certain length, those are things that help you a lot. I'm not saying that you got to shove all this crap into your CERT bag, but be aware of your surroundings. Chances are, if there's going to be some sort of an activation, like recently here in Franklin County, they thought they were going to go ahead and have to activate Operation Flood Fight. So it's a pretty self-explanatory kind of a thing. You want to take stuff to stay dry with. You're not going to wear your dock shoes down to go do this. You're going to put boots on, kick on the old Danner boots and get it ready to go. Make sure that you got the strap for your hard hat so you can go down there and be a viable part of it. I hope that you have rain gear, because it's going to get really, really bad if you don't. If you go down there with just regular straight clothes on. I cannot tell you that your local EMA is going to go ahead and provide you with rain gear. I encourage you to try to get your own. I think it's Helmsley or Kelly. You can always go ahead and get industrial rain gear to go ahead and utilize that. Why do you ask industrial? because it's used to all that flexing. If you get some of these recreational pieces of rain gear, it's meant for walking. It is not meant to perform pulling, pushing, heavy duty lifting. A lot of shifting in that can break down that rain gear material. So your best bet is to go ahead and try to invest in some construction grade rain gear, unless your local EMA has something worked out that they're able to go ahead and they can offer it to you. Depending on their budget, they may be able to issue it to you. Be careful what you get issued.
Well, what I will say is, thank God for the Army getting rid of the couch camouflage, because Gore-Tex is now through DLA, being a Defense Logistics Agency, is being able to be thrown out. And with that couch camouflage, it's the two different light and green color, light and darker green colors, the little squares. Gore-Tex allows you to breathe, i.e. your sweat to evaporate eventually. It's a whole system. Right. I mean, I don't want to get into that. But what I will say is the boots are better designed. Everything's been better designed by DARPA, and that stuff will you may step into the deep wet and get wet, but if you have everything going on the way it should be, you're going to be fine. You're not going to be another cold casualty, as long as you've kept everything the way it should be, and you wring it out, and you know all the different things you have to do. But wool, I will tell everybody this is old school technique and tip. If you get wet and you're wearing wool, you will be wet, but you'll still be warm. That's all I'll say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that always counts. Okay, so we've covered a little bit of rain gear, a little bit of bootage, cordage, a little bit of zip ties,
yep,
markings, utensils to walk, to write with. What else did we miss? Did we miss anything else? Oh, let's go ahead and talk about hazmat situations. I don't want to get deep into this because
that's a different program. We'll go deep.
That's then. Program, but I want to go ahead and kind of get around the edge of it. Rule number 1: be upwind. Be upwind. Rule 1. Rule 2: if you're not actively engaged in that situation, stage where command tells you to stage. Yeah. If you self-dispatch, evacuate the situation, and the safest distance away from that is if you put your thumb, you extend your hand in front of you, you stick your thumb up. If your thumb can cover that entire situation,
you're safe.
Safe distance. So don't get your ass in there, because this is what happens is they will do what they can for you, but if they have higher priority, you could become on the lower end of the scale. And not that they would willingly let you expire. They could have a greater priority that has to take place first, of which if you don't make it by the time they get there, then you shouldn't have been there in the first place. I know that's a little bit of tough love. It's all for the common good of all, is basically what it all boils down to in the end. So most definitely stay out of those hazmat situations. Anything leaking, don't try to sniff it to try to figure out what it is. If it looks like it's sparking or it's jumping, it's whirling around, and you know it's not a rattlesnake, run like hell. Stay away from it. Guys, it isn't worth the effort of getting caught and tangled up in all that junk. What else did we miss?
Well, I'll tell you this. The one thing I will tell you, as a combat veteran and all the other bull that I do, one of the major things I tell people is, remember, the U.S. government, state small s, not big S, like Ohio. That's small s state. They do not. And I was a National Guardsman, and I loved my National Guard unit I was in. And they're good people, and I still circulate around them. They do not have your best benefit, and if you doubt me, look at the sailors that were told to atom bomb test. An hour afterwards, go scrub that deck. Go see what you can remove. And if you doubt me with the Army, we're going to blow this thing, and it's radiological, just like the atom bomb test out in Bikini Atoll, except they did it in the desert, and they had them all protected perfectly, and then they said, now rush the target. They do not have your best interest at heart. And if you don't believe me on that, look at what's happened during the global war on terror. Both OIF and OEF, and I've worked both those, and the Gulf War. I can tell you about peroxysteramine bromide. The experimental drug that wasn't even sanctioned by the U.S. government. It was made in Holland, Amsterdam. And then I can tell you about, this is a funny one, OEF and OIF. They always wanted us to use the DEET. Now, DEET, it destroys cells over time. Your cells. And all these mixtures, they didn't want to talk about. So, don't think everybody's your friend, especially your governments. And that's all I'll say on that. But I'm just saying, realize it's not a conspiracy, and it's not a conspiracy theory. But it's me telling you, your government, they respect that you're working for them, why you're working for them, but what happens afterwards, they don't really care. And they're pushing two things right now. The things for veterans, and this causes me worry, and this is the only political part I'm going to get into on this, is two things they're pushing. In the states that have allowed marijuana, and Ohio will be one. Oh, you got PTSD? Here's your marijuana card. Oh, well, the federal government still considers that a class 1 drug. So, guess what? You can't own guns. Don't take their dope. And the second thing, don't take their dope with the psychotropics. Ritalin, whatever they give you. I don't know. I've never taken any of that crap. Don't take it, because don't think this is not going to be used against you. And that's an important thing to think about. Sorry, I defer to you, brother.
No. Okay, so what else do we need to talk about?
I
what
think
else
we've talked about all we need to talk about tonight. If you come up with something right now, or you come up with it later, we will do a mod 3 on this, because
Sure.
I love the way your mind works, and I don't want to keep you up because I know you got things to do. And
Oh, no problem at all. Most definitely, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to get a hold of us. Questions, you can send those over to Kaiser. We're always happy to go ahead. If we don't know, we're not going to tell you. Tough luck. We will find out what's going on with it. We'll get back in touch. We'll cover it. We'll let you know when we're going to cover it. We'll send you back an email, say, hey, you want a response? This is when we're going to be back on. Things like that. So we most definitely will go ahead and get you the best, honest answer that we can possibly give you.
Yep.
And then that way you're informed, because we want to give good information. We never want to give bad information. So we always, and we're also shoot straighters. A lot of people don't like that. I don't care if people don't like it or not. I don't like it when people lie to me. I most definitely wouldn't lie to anyone else, especially our friends out there.
That's right.
That are the same, that have the same mindset that we do. We have enough bullshit and lying going on already. We don't need to have. We're not going to contribute to any of that.
Nope.
And we have to go ahead, and if we have to do some hard, some hard pushing and pulling to get the information, we definitely will. More or less, if you have questions, don't hesitate to get a hold of us. We're always happy to go ahead and discuss it with you. Is there anything else that you're thinking about that we haven't discussed that you want to kind of?
Well, I want to discuss. You give out your site, Hunt for the Truth, and all that stuff. I want them to be able to get a hold of you, Dan. Honestly, Dan's a fount of information. I just bounce things off. Remember, I'm a trainer. He's out there doing it, and so I can't blow no smoke on him, because I basically go over and do stuff other places, but he's doing it here. So
right.
He's the guy I will always tell you for this situation to look at, not me. So
and just so everyone knows, we discuss everything on both sides of the coin. We have a really great understanding of what's going on and everything. So it really isn't a huge deal, because we like to learn from each other. I think that's the best way to describe our friendship that we have here, that we learn so much from each other. Even if it's the little things, we always learn something different that makes it better for both of us. And so if you don't know, if Kaiser doesn't know and I don't know, we'll find someone that knows. Yeah. We've got the right contacts to go ahead and do that. We're always happy to do that. Always. And the best part is we're going to be covering other topics beyond CERT.
Yeah. The CERT was just the thing. I think we'll do another third one, just because there's some autistic stuff that we're going to cover. But it can't happen tonight. Dan has a life, and so do I. And and a wife. We love our wives. But that's the thing, man. We're trying to just bring something to you. Dan, I really want you to plug your stuff, because the last time I had somebody on, his phone thing dropped and he was not able to plug his stuff.
Okay. So what you can do is you can always go ahead and visit me if you want over at newstalk614.com. I am Dano from the Dano Show. You can always, if you have any emails that you want to go ahead and give me a shout out, you can always go ahead and do that at, make sure which website which one I'm going to give you, teamtrumpradio@gmail.com. You can always drop them over there. Just go ahead and make the subject line Dano question. I'm always happy to go ahead and help with that. If I don't know, again, we will get the information for you. And I think tonight there's a rerun of my show going on right now over at newstalk614.com. Mr. Thompson has gone ahead and kicked that dude off, and it's been rolling while we've been on the phone. So most definitely most definitely something to take stock of. You never know when we're going to be over there. Like our page over there, newstalk614.com, and then when you like it, follow it, because that way when you follow it, and when I come on the air over there and I do my other show, it's gonna pop right up on your phone. It's gonna go off. It's gonna be bells and whistles. It's gonna say, "Oh my God, Dano's on. You got to go listen and see what Dano's got to say." So Dano doesn't do the 5 shows anymore every week. It is an entirely different situation now. Things have kind of flipped. I believe it's all going to start to settle down. We may have something a little bit more regular coming up here in the near future. But as it stands now, you can always go ahead and drop me an email over at teamtrumpradio@gmail.com. Anything else? Because I know your wife is probably like my wife. She's probably looking at her clock saying, "Holy shnikes, we have got a day coming up tomorrow."
Yeah. Hey, brother, I love you. You know that. Hey,
Absolutely.
I will tell you, listen to Dano's show. What I'll say is he is exactly right with all of us. What you have to do is you have to like and follow and hit that little bell. I don't pimp my stuff enough, and I probably should. But all I'm trying to do, I'm happy with a small following, but I do know that Team Trump Radio and Dirk, they need more followers, and there's a lot of good information coming from them. And me and Dan, you know, Dirk knows me, and so does Dan. It's not like we haven't met face to face.
Right.
We actually know each other, and we're not trying to sell you snake oil. I will sell you the t-shirts that I'm coming out with to support. If you're from Ohio, all 88 counties, I've designed a t-shirt for the 88 counties. And that means you're supporting those counties. And when I do pull them out and I make it, I'll let Dan do it too. All right? So we're done with this tonight, and love Dan and love his wife, and, you know, good people. And Dirk, all of them. They're just good people. Go to Team Trump Radio, and that's what I'll say.
Alrighty, fair enough. Hey, thanks for having me on, brother.
No
Greatly
problem.
appreciate it. I'll catch up with you tomorrow morning sometime, okay?
All right, God bless. Bye.
Fair enough. God bless.